Okay, let's unpack this research paper that just landed on our desk.
Oh, the one from the English Journal.
Yeah, March 2025. It's asking this really intriguing question. What if your college major, quietly shapes the way you use English verbs?
Ah, yes. The comparative study. It's pretty fascinating.
It really is. They're diving deep into English tense mastery.
And specifically comparing computer science students with management students.
Exactly. The core question they're tackling is, are there real differences in how well these two groups master English tenses?
And crucially, what might that tell us about their fields?
Right. And it hints at some surprising findings. It's not just about who's better overall.
No, it's more nuanced. It points to, specific strengths and weaknesses in which tenses each group gets right or struggles with.
And potentially links that back to what they actually study and do.
Kind of like a linguistic fingerprints for each discipline.
That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to quickly get you up to speed on these specific insights.
And explore why they actually matter for understanding, education and communication skills today.
Okay, so diving in, the paper starts off by reminding us something pretty fundamental.
Which is?
That language proficiency is just, crucial in academia, right? For understanding complex stuff, getting your own ideas across.
Critical thinking, too. It all ties together.
And there's this existing idea, mentioned in other work.
Like Kamarai and Giuliani, Vallisneria,
Yeah,
those ones.
that maybe students from science backgrounds, more analytical perhaps.
Might approach things differently than, say, students in social sciences or management.
Exactly. Different strengths, maybe even affecting how easily they pick up languages.
Right. And this study sort of builds on that, but sharpens the focus quite a bit.
How so?
Well, instead of just science versus humanities, it contrasts an exact science, computer science.
With a non-exact science management.
Uh-huh. And it uses English tenses as the specific lens to look through.
Okay, but why tenses? What's so special about them?
Well, the paper points out, and other research backs this up, tenses are often a major hurdle, especially for non-native speakers.
Right. I can see that. All those irregular verbs.
Exactly. Irregular verbs, keeping things consistent, the subtle shifts in meaning depending on context.
Yeah.
It's complex.
Getting them right is pretty key for clear communication, I guess.
Absolutely essential. So it's a good place to look for potential differences.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's the why. But how do they actually do the study? How did they compare these students?
They used a quantitative approach, a comparative one.
And they were specific about who they picked, right? Purposive sampling.
Correct. They deliberately chose 20 first semester computer science students and 20 first semester management students.
All from the same place, Universitas Kristen Emanuel.
Yep. The idea, according to the paper, was to look at students from these, pretty distinct learning environments.
And likely different language backgrounds coming in, perhaps.
That seems to be part of the rationale, yeah.
Yeah.
Exploring that diversity.
So to make it a fair fight, so to speak,
Uh-huh.
they gave both groups the same teaching first.
Identical instruction. Focus specifically on 9 English tenses.
9. Okay, which ones were they?
Let's see. Simple present, simple past, simple future. Then the continuous ones. Present continuous, past continuous, future continuous.
Okay, that's 6.
And the perfects. Present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. The main ones, basically.
Got it. So teach them the tenses, then test them.
Exactly. A written comprehension test followed the instruction.
10 questions per tense, so 90 questions total.
Sounds about right.
And what's interesting you mentioned is how they tested, not just fill in the blanks.
No, they used written essay tests, which is quite different.
So assessing if they could actually use the tenses correctly in, real sentences, coherent writing.
Precisely. Much closer to how we actually communicate, not just isolated grammar points. It assesses context and usage.
Makes sense. And then the analysis, just comparing scores.
Pretty much. Standard statistical analysis looking at score ranges, frequencies, percentages, calculating the average scores, highs, lows.
And comparing those results between the computer science group and the management group.
That's the core of the comparison.
Okay, setup clear. Now for the juicy part, the findings. What did the data actually show? Let's start with the computer science students.
All right. For the CS students, their strongest performance, meaning high scores were most common, came in simple present.
Okay.
Simple future, present continuous, present perfect, and past perfect. Quite a few strong areas.
And where did they struggle more?
Their weaker spots where lower scores were more prevalent were simple past,
Interesting.
past continuous, future continuous, and future perfect.
So a clear split there. What about their average scores?
The means per tense ranged from about 56.5, which was for simple past, up to 80 for past perfect.
Okay. Now, flip side. How did the management students do?
Their results painted a slightly different picture. Strong performance in simple future, present continuous.
Like the CS students.
Yes, overlap there. But also strong in past continuous, present perfect, and future perfect.
Ah, so strong, where CS was weak in some cases. Where were their weaker areas?
Mainly simple past, same as CS, and interestingly, past perfect.
Huh. CS was strong in past perfect, right?
They were. Management students also had moderate performance, sort of in the middle category for simple present and future continuous.
And their average scores. Higher overall.
Generally, yes. Their means ranged from about 61, again for simple past, up to a quite high 88.5 for present continuous.
Wow. Okay. So comparing them directly, where did the biggest differences lie? You mentioned overlap in simple future and present continuous being strong for both.
Yes, both groups seemed comfortable there, and both struggled with simple past. That was consistent.
But the divergence is key.
Absolutely. So CS students, strong in simple present and past perfect. But management, only moderate in simple present and actually weak in past perfect.
So almost opposites there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then look at the other side. Management students were strong in past continuous and future perfect.
Which were weak areas for CS students.
Exactly. And management was moderate in future continuous, where CS was again weak. Clear, distinct patterns emerging.
And zooming out to the average scores across all the tenses.
Well, this was maybe the starkest finding. The management students generally outperformed the CS students in average scores for, well, nearly all the tenses tested.
Nearly all? Was there any exception?
Just one. The past perfect tense. That was the single tense where the computer science students actually notched a slightly higher average score.
Okay, so the core finding really crystallizes there, doesn't it?
It does. Significant differences exist. They're not random. They seem linked to the discipline.
CS excels specifically in simple present and past perfect.
Tenses potentially very relevant to technical documentation and process description.
While management shows broader proficiency overall and particular strength in those continuous and future perfect tenses.
Right. The language of ongoing projects, planning, meeting future deadlines, things central to management.
So, the what is clear these distinct patterns exist. But the really deep dive is into the why. Why these differences? What did the paper suggest?
Well, it really comes back to the nature of their academic training, the skills that get emphasized day in, day out.
So for computer science.
Think about it. Technical writing, coding, documenting software, precision is key. The study suggests their strength in simple present makes sense.
How so?
Simple present is the tense for general truths, habitual actions, describing how things work. Vital for documentation, code comments, describing algorithms.
Okay, yeah, that fits. What about past perfect? That one seemed less obvious.
A bit less direct, maybe, but the paper speculates it could relate to tracking sequences, like steps in developing code, or documenting states that had existed before bug fix or update. That kind of narrative structure needed in technical reports sometimes.
Interesting possibility. Now switch gears to management.
Their world revolves around business communication, project management, dealing with things changing over time, planning ahead. So their strength in those continuous tenses, present continuous for ongoing projects, past continuous for discussing actions happening over a period in the past.
And future perfect for actions that will be completed before a future point in time.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a field focused on process, timelines, progress reports, hitting future targets. It's the language needed for that kind of dynamic activity and strategic planning.
The paper also mentioned some other potential factors, didn't it? Though maybe more speculative.
Yeah, a couple interesting ideas. One was about cognitive load. Could the intense focus on logic and computation in CS maybe leave slightly less mental bandwidth for wrestling with the complexities and nuances of English grammar?
Like a trade-off?
Possibly. Or another thought, does the very iterative nature of programming, like build, test, debug, repeat, maybe foster a sort of simpler, more direct communication style that doesn't always lean on complex tenses?
Food for thought, definitely. So, okay, these groups have different strengths and weaknesses. What are the practical implications, according to the study? If CS students struggle with simple past?
Well, the paper suggests that could make it harder for them to, say, effectively reflect on past projects, document lessons learned, or even just narrate their own learning journey clearly.
Okay, and their weakness in past continuous.
might make discussing the historical development of technologies or ongoing trends in the past a bit more challenging.
And the future tenses they struggled with: future continuous, future perfect.
Difficulty there could hinder how well they articulate detailed project plans, forecast timelines, or describe the expected state of a system after future updates. Things important in professional settings.
And what about the management students? Their weaker areas were simple past and past perfect. Implications there.
It could mean potential challenges when they need to really dig into and communicate about past business performance, analyze historical trends, or clearly sequence past events in a case study or report.
So it's not just about grammar scores. It's about real-world communication tasks in their fields.
Exactly. But the study doesn't just point out problems, it suggests solutions, too.
Like what?
The big one is tailoring language instruction, making it specific to the needs of students in different disciplines.
So not a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching English grammar.
Definitely not. They also argue for more integrative approaches, like weaving language training into the technical or business courses themselves.
How would that work?
Well, imagine using programming assignments that deliberately require students to use, say, past perfect to describe previous versions, or management case studies where they have to use future continuous to discuss ongoing marketing campaigns.
Ah, so learning the grammar while doing tasks relevant to their field.
Precisely. Making it contextual and immediately applicable. Collaborative projects are also suggested, where maybe CS and management students work together, leveraging their different communication strengths.
Okay, so bringing this all together,
Yeah.
what does this mean for you, the person listening right now?
Well, I think whether your background is tech or business or something totally different, this research is a cool reminder. It shows how our academic or professional paths might subtly shape more than just what we know.
But how we communicate that knowledge, right down to the verbs we choose.
Exactly. Understanding these kinds of discipline-specific patterns can be, well, pretty valuable. It might help you spot your own natural strengths.
Or maybe identify areas where, depending on your field, you might need a bit more focus in your own language skills.
Yeah. And for educators listening, it's a really clear call to action, isn't it?
Definitely. Make language teaching relevant. Tailor it. Recognize the diverse communication needs students bring from their different disciplines.
So summing it all up then, the main takeaway.
It seems to be that different academic fields, like computer science and management, really do seem to cultivate different patterns of English tense mastery.
And these patterns aren't random. They appear linked to the specific communication needs and maybe even cognitive habits of those fields.
Management students, in this study, showed generally broader proficiency across most tenses.
But CS students had very specific pronounced strengths in tenses like simple present and past perfect, which are arguably crucial for precise technical work.
And the study strongly suggests that language education could be way more effective if it's tailored and integrated, rather than kept separate.
Because language isn't just this abstract skill, right? It's a tool we adapt, and it gets shaped by the context we use it in most.
Yeah, it's shaped by the world we navigate professionally or academically.
Makes perfect sense.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to maybe mull over. If our academic paths can shape something as fundamental as how we use verb tenses, what else about our communication style, our way of arguing, or even the metaphors we use might be silently shaped by the subjects we spend years studying?